10K, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, establishing a pre-qualified list of contractors for the provision of home repair services for the city of North Miami residential rehabilitation program at a cost not to exceed $2 million annually, in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications contained in request for qualification number 32-17-18. Further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute agreements for the provision of stated services with the selected firms, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes.
Alberto Estrada,
Thank
Purchasing
you,
Department.
thank you very much, and Madam Clerk, for tab K. And I did not have a chance to review the item, and we are about to select companies for $2 million contract, and I would like to postpone that item to the next agenda so we get more information about it. I don't know if I
Second the
Can-
motion to continue to September 10th.
thank you very much.
I have a motion made by Mayor Bieneme to continue the item to the September 10th council meeting. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The item passes to continue the item to September 10th with a 5-0 vote.
Next,
Tab M, proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council.
Somebody in the audience.
Proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, adopting amendments to Volume 1, Goals, Objectives, and Policies of the city of North Miami, 2016 Comprehensive Plan in accordance with the requirements of Section 163.31843, Florida Statutes 2018, and Chapter 29, Article 3, Division 11, Section 3-1102A, and Sections 3-1105 through 3-1110 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, specifically by amending the future land use element to 1, create a new North Miami Transit Station overlay district with related goals, objectives, and policies, and 2, at policy 1.2.1, to establish maximum density and height for the new overlay district, and amending the future land use map to reflect the boundary of the new overlay district, providing for an adoption hearing and subsequent transmittal of the proposed amendments and supporting data and analyses to the State Land Planning Agency for a determination of completeness, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, and for an effective date. That was tab M.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development Department. Item M is a comprehensive plan text and map amendment. The request is to create a transit station overlay district within the area at the vicinity of Northeast 123rd Street and the FEC railway line. I'm going to walk you through the presentation for tonight's item. So the council will recall that back in December of last year, the CRA actually adopted major TOD Mobility Hub Master Plan. And in that master plan, there was a recommendation for a transit station overlay district to be created. And the boundaries of the district spans north to Northeast 30th Street, to the south to Northeast 121st Street. The FEC line is on the eastern boundary, and the western boundary spans the Northeast 10th Avenue. So we have a depiction of the boundaries of the TOD district for those that are looking at the presentation at home. So based on the recommendations in that mobility hub plan, it was recommended that the density be 125 dwelling units per acre. The permitted height within that district will be up to 200 feet. It will allow for mixed use, several residential, retail, and office uses within, open space and park areas within that district. And the minimum unit size recommended there was 500 square feet in size. So looking at some of the benefits of creating this TOD district based on the master plan that was adopted. The first one is to encourage sustainability, sustainable development within the district. It's a pedestrian-oriented type of environment that encourages biking and walking and public transportation. It's also a part of the recommendations from the ULI study that was done back in 2016. ULI identified that Arch Creek area as being one of the highly flooded areas within the region. It's actually recommended that there is higher density that's created within that area because of the excessive flooding that they've experienced in the Arch Creek area. And then the third recommendation there is that the area would promote affordable housing, workforce housing within that area with the smaller unit sizes and a mix of both residential, retail, and office use. And then fourth within the recommendations, within the study, it pointed out that it would create for new Class A office space where currently it's limited within the city itself. So it provides an economic development opportunity within the city from creating that district. So in terms of the next step, because this is a comprehensive plan amendment, state statute requires that it be transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity. They'll have the review of those text amendments and the actual map amendment for 30 days, and it's returned to the city. We have up to 180 days in which to incorporate any objections, recommendations, or comments from the state. And then you'll see the item again on second reading, and at which time all the recommended changes would be incorporated into your comprehensive plan, and the map amendment would be reflected on the city's future land use map. Staff is available to answer any questions if the council has any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Any question? No.
Just a quick one. I've heard how we don't know where the train station is going and when. Should it happen to go to 151st Street, will we just simply have to redo this proposal and resubmit it, or?
So there's a subsequent item that's on this agenda as well that recommends a TOD area within the vicinity of that location. So if it's located at 151st or 123rd, the city's land use and the city's standards would be ripe and ready for any redevelopment in either quarters to cover our bases.
Yeah, that was the one we did,
The
probably,
SDTOD.
yeah, the STTOD is probably going back almost a year now.
Okay,
In the M1 off of south of 151st.
okay, yeah,
Right, yeah.
I know we're all hoping for 123rd Street, but should it go somewhere else?
We
I
are-
didn't want
we
us
are
to be
ready.
flat-footed and
Yeah,
We'll
go
be
all
ready.
over.
We'll be ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
This, through the mayor, so this, if for any awful reason we don't get a train station, this is still a mobile transit type zone where we can use other forms of transportation and mobility to get people there and then downtown and.
Absolutely. So that's a good point that the ULI study brought out. The fact that this is such a severely flooded area and the area is low-lying with excessive issues in terms of development potential. It's good that the master plan conceived it as a mobility area, not just transit itself. It's pedestrian oriented, it has open space and park areas. It allows for even like a bus type of kiss and ride experience. So it's not limited to just a train station is the way the master plan set it up. It's all the multimodal options that you'd have in transit.
We discussed this TOD in 2015 when we did the comp plan, and we were sort of waiting to know, in fact, it was me, to know exactly where that train station was. But at this point, if we don't get the train station, this is still,
Absolutely.
this
A
area
mixed-use
with a
village
higher-
is what you'd have.
okay. thank you.
Correct.
Now let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on the item.
Sarah McDevitt, 14490 Northeast 10th Avenue. I have a question. If I understand correctly.
Is the mic open?
Sorry,
It's
you can't
turned
hear me
on?
well? Can you hear me?
And as
Object.
I see, oh,
All right, sorry. If I'm not mistaken, you said that it's up to 130th Street, but isn't Arch Creek north of that? Isn't the flooding area more north of that?
I'll pull the map back up for you. So,
So, oh, sorry, you don't want to have a conversation?
oh,
Sorry. So, but then also, either way, obviously, I'm very much in support of having a transportation hub right in that area. You know, there's a lot of construction already in that area that is well suited to having a mobility station, and then increasing density and height in that area is great for our downtown. So I'm in favor of it, and just curious about that, identifying that area as a low-lying area, because I was under the impression that the low-lying area was further north of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open on the item.
Good evening, Mayor Council, City Staff, Howard Duncan, 12600 Griffin Boulevard. I would implore you all to move forward with this transit overlay district, this plan. If you look at our city on a geographical map, it's roughly 1.5 miles square of an oblong square with 125th Street down the middle of what will be a future island. And we're going to have a lot of residents, whether they understand this or not, in the next decade, even less, are going to be losing their homes. So we have to address the housing issue, and we have to build towers. I think it's way less ambitious than it should be, and I think that one of the only resources we have in our city is air rights. And I think that we should go really high and allow that and have a mitigation of green space, which would pay for moving people into towers in the future. But if you go to conferences of the real estate people, the business community, behind closed doors, they say, you know, the ground people have to go. The idea of a single family home of a 1950s dream is not the future of North Miami. And if we don't take rising sea level and climate change seriously, we're not going to have a livable city into the future. So we must develop in an holistic and very smart way into the future. And we probably have one shot at this. So the legislation that you all agree on in the next year to 18 months will define the next 10 years and whether or not we have a habitable city. So this, whether or not we get the train station, we have to have this. Because in 5 years from now, people will be screaming for somewhere to live, and we need to think about the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Kevin Burns, 2065 Alameda Drive. You're proposing 125 units per acre, but the transit corridor up at 151st Street that you rezoned and you raised the density is at 150 units per acre. Why would we not make this 150 units per acre to match what has been already allocated or already been approved at the 151st Street, which is the old lock company, the 2 acres, the Channel 2. You're working on a project there and allowing them 150 units per acre at 200 feet. If it's good for 151st Street, that would be good for this part of 123rd Street. Those extra 25 units per acre will help keep the cost of those projects down. Right now, an acre of land around that area is going in excess of $3 million. That's about anywhere from $18,000 to $24,000 per door, and developers look at the cost per door. Also, the problem is that for this to work, this overlay to work, is they're going to have to assemble lots of small parcels together. But if somebody wants to build on a half of an acre and go up very high, they're very limited to 75 units. Right now, there would be 65 units, which makes it hard to be a viable project. So I would suggest amending this, adding the additional 25 acres. You already have it at 151st Street. Why don't you have it consistent for the whole overlay corridor rather than two, build here it's 125, build there it's 150. And again, whether we get the train station or not, we need this in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open on the item. Public hearing is now closed. Tanya, and just a question.
So if I could respond.
Why did you propose 129 units instead of 151, the same as 151?
So during the master plan process for the mobility hub,
Can you
it was
project a little bit, Tanya? I'm sorry.
Can IT put the volume up, please?
testing. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
So during, whoa.
Yeah.
Leave
Okay,
it
thank
there.
you. So during the master plan process in creating the recommendations from Mobility Hub, the recommendation that was received from the public and the discussions that were held was for 125 units. But Mr. Burns is actually correct. For the subsequent item that you're going to hear, the density is slightly high. It's at 150 dwelling units per acre. Staff wasn't opposed to going that high, but we really were seeking to implement the recommendations of the master plan in whole and really stick to the spirit of what was discussed during the community forum. But it's really at the will and pleasure of the council if they feel that the two need to comport in terms of the density.
What about the units?
The minimum unit size is the same. It's 500 square feet minimum size. The only difference is the density.
No, the units per acre is the same as 151?
It's not. Yeah, the one you're looking at now is 125 dwelling units per acre. The next item that you'll hear at 151st is 150 dwelling units per acre. So it's slightly
Why?
higher.
Okay, just because you didn't get any recommendation from the public and
Correct. We
anybody
were
else,
following the
that's
master plan's recommendations. Since
Okay.
it's the will of what was heard, we move forward the recommendations as reflected in the master plan.
all. Okay, thank you very much. City manager, you were gonna say something about it? You are discussing, sir. You already submitted this to the state, right?
No, we haven't.
Oh, you haven't
Yeah,
do
this
yet?
is at
Okay,
the
that's not the
discussion
second
point.
reading. Okay, do we have, bring it here on the dais? Questions?
Well, you're saying that the reason that you kept it 25 less than the one on 151st is because you following the master plan. You didn't hear feedback. Well, I'm not opposed to it either way. So it's whatever my colleagues want to do, I'm okay with.
Okay, who's next?
Yeah,
You
I'm in agreement, so to equal it out, that's fine.
Can we hear you? Can you, we can't hear you. Is your mic?
My mic is on, I said it,
Where
yeah.
is,
So
is there someone from IT here? They're sleeping?
Everybody just has to project in the microphone.
No, so I'm in agreement with Councilman Alex Desume to go ahead and add those other 25,
To equalize it.
yeah, to equalize it. That's fine.
Well,
Vice Mayor,
I was saying whatever.
no, we're gonna, when we're done, yeah.
I mean,
Vice Mayor Keys,
I'm,
use the mic, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm ambivalent. I'm the anti-development and always want less density. But I see going forward, if the TOD up north is gonna have it, we should probably mirror it. I'm gonna be, discussing unit size. Is unit size in, we haven't done the LDRs yet for the TOD on 151st yet, right?
It's coming up next.
Okay, that's why it's not mentioned in the next
Here.
item. It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
okay, so this is just density and height.
This one doesn't have nothing, doesn't address any size units, right?
For the next LDR
No,
item,
for
that's
that
where it's
one.
written in.
For that
Correct.
item, okay,
And the unit sizes are the same between
Okay.
the
I
two
have-
districts.
I wouldn't object to increasing.
okay. Councilman Scott Garvin,
No?
no question? Can I hear motion on the item
So
with the
moved.
amendment? You wanna move it with the amendment?
Move it with the amendment to raise the,
So who made the motion?
Whoever wanna, no.
I can make a
Scott made the
motion,
motion.
I'll make a motion.
and I'll second
To
it.
amend
The
the
proposed,
proposal to equal the density with the next item at 151st Street, raising it from 125 units to 150 units.
151, yeah,
Is it 150
150.
or 151?
151. No,
151.
150.
150.
151 is the street.
Tanya, which is it? No, not talking about the street.
The units.
What number of units are,
So
at
you're raising
150.
it from 125 dwelling units per acre to 150 dwelling units per acre.
50?
Correct, 150.
And
motion is
secondly,
stated.
what about the amount of units?
So your units minimum square footage is decided in the LDRs. So that's the next item that
The
we're
other
gonna be
one,
looking at.
no, I'm talking about 151.
That's capped at 2,000 units in the pool.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I
Madam Clerk.
seconded the motion.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab M with the amendments to raise the density from 125 to 150 units to equal the density at 151st Street. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estimate Irvin. Councilman Desume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin?
yes,
Vice Mayor Keys?
Yes,
Councilwoman Estimate Irvin?
Yes,
Mayor Bieneme? How do
Yes.
you vote? The item passes with amendments with a 5-0 vote. Tab N. Proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, providing for text amendments to chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations by amending Article 4, zoning districts and the official zoning map to establish the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and for an effective date.
Thank you very much.
Again,
Tanya.
for the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development. So this is a companion item. We just adopted the comprehensive plan text and map amendment. The item before you now is for the request of the land development regulations, a text amendment, as well as a zoning map amendment. Within the regulations, the recommendation, again, is at 125 dwelling units per acre. The height, maximum height, 200 feet. The minimum lot size would be 10,000 square feet. The minimum dwelling unit size at 500 square feet, and the lot coverage requirement would be at 80%. Before, in the previous items, we talked about the recommendation to change the density and increase it from 125 dwelling unit per acre to 150 dwelling unit per acre. So staff is recommending that that amendment be reflected in this LDR amendment that we're looking at currently. In terms of the procedures, once the comprehensive plan portion has been approved by the state, you'll hear the LDR second reading again when the item is brought back before council for consideration. So we're asking for approval of the ordinance at this time.
Okay.
Move
And
approval.
just
Oh,
a minute,
sorry.
just a minute.
It's the
For-
same.
We haven't opened it to the public yet. And question, you wanna change the square footage of the units from 750 to 500?
So since the district doesn't exist, we're asking that it be established at 500. We're not doing a reduction or revision. We're just establishing it for the first time at 500
okay,
square
okay,
feet,
okay.
based on the recommendations of the mobility plan.
Okay, but you know that will open the door for further development for those size unit. We know
Micro-units,
that.
yeah,
We need to
micro-units are
understand
very
that.
popular right now.
Correct,
That
so that,
Everything downtown is, not everything, lots of what's being built downtown is being built with smaller floor plans.
Yeah, we understand, we are on board, we okay, but do understand that future developments are coming and people are going to ask to reduce the size of units.
correct.
That's mean we won't be able to say, yes, you can do that, no, you cannot do that, all those things based on where you live, based on, it's on my area, I don't want it, it's over there, it's not a problem. We open the door for that, we wanna make sure.
Correct.
Let's open it to the public now.
Okay.
Yes. Public hearing is open on the item, thank you.
Name is Sid Weinstein, 1325 125th Street. On these 500 square foot units, is that rentals or condos or what?
We are going to answer your question, but I believe it's anything. It's up to the project. It doesn't matter if it's condo rental or
Are they rentals or condos?
They could be
Or
either.
both?
either.
Okay. Now, the setbacks on the property lines, how far is the setback now?
She's gonna take all the questions, and
Okay.
after that, she's going to answer it.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine.
Do you have other questions?
And the train station will be on 125th?
Those are the questions that we are
No,
going
that's
to
not a
answer
question,
after that.
that's an answer.
we do
It
not
will
know
be
that
on
yet.
125th.
Oh, that's an answer from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, he's giving us an answer. He said it will be?
He's saying
That's-
it will be on one.
All
Okay.
right
Public
now.
hearing still open on the item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive. Do you all know how big 500 square feet is?
We do.
What it looks like in relationship?
Mayor, I just wanna
Yes.
make sure they understand. We
Yep.
open the door for further developments.
Yes.
And I want people to say, though, you can put it on Northwest 7, but you cannot put it on 123rd, you can do this, you cannot put it there. everybody within the downtown, whether it's Wynwood or Lauderdale by the sea, by the beach, we see that.
Yes.
I just want
We got it.
everybody to understand that.
I understand it.
Okay.
I'm actually here to advocate that you should drop it
Okay.
to 400 square feet.
Okay.
The reason being, if you look at most of the new development going on in Wynwood, Edgewater, where they're actually building and not make-believe building, they're actually building. Studios start out at 325 square feet. The rents are $2,300 a month, and condos are going for close to $400,000. If we're serious about redeveloping North Miami, along the railroad tracks now, so you want people to come and spend good money on rental or condos along the railroad tracks that make noise, let's give them the biggest bang they can get so that they keep the prices affordable. 400 square feet, we had this discussion many years ago, is actually from the back wall there to this first TV monitor right over here. That's about 400 square feet. If a studio can't make it in this whole area at 400 square feet, that's quite a bit. And when you see it visually, how big 400 square feet is, that is huge. If you go up to IKEA and see what their 300 square feet is or 400 square feet of their rooms are, if you want to get on board with the rest of this city, the county that is moving forward, again, Wynwood, Edgewater, Brickell, 300 square feet, 400 square foot condos and studios are the norm. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not even counting the micro units, student housing. You should seriously consider, and again, that 400 square feet is an appropriate size for a studio unit as a minimum to begin with, and then they can go up further, but it gives the developers, it gives the people who are going to redevelop and actually spend their money more of a better mix so that you can add the 3 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms, more of a mix of a unit in there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. A quick question, Tanya. So Lemia for studios is 400 square foot, right?
The smallest one is 423
Huh?
square feet. 423 square feet inside
422
is the
is for
smallest one.
Solemia.
So,
Okay,
correct.
thank you very much. Public hearing still open on the item.
Jessica Austin, 1140 Northwest 125 Street. I'm very concerned about this item, especially when you talk about the square footage, living square footage, because the impact of what you do on the east side is going to impact what's going to be done on the west side on 7th Avenue, where Sunkist Grove is, where I live. And I have said it before, and I say it again. To build a unit, 500 square feet, 10 stories high at Billings Slums on the west side. Therefore, I do not support this maximum density of such a small space where a person can only turn around in. Because when that translates to the area on the west side and the population who will live there, where people tend to have 2 and 3 or more families in one dwelling, it will be horrendous.
Public hearing is still open on the item.
Wait a minute. Did she just,
No, we're gonna come here.
no, but she said
She opposes
Hi.
going small.
Yes.
Jessica Wolin, 2225 Northeast 123rd Street. I understand developers and growth in the city is very important, and I also know they're wonderful for contributing to many things. But also, the voters in the city are the population. Please keep in mind quality of life for the future people that are going to move into these developments. Small spaces don't lead for huge success. Don't approve so much of something that you wouldn't want to live in yourself. Thank you.
Sarah McDevitt, 14490 Northeast 10th Avenue. I've lived in a very small space before, and I will say I didn't have a family at that time, but it was actually quite pleasing. And if we create the mobility hub that we're talking about creating, where we have parks, recreation, restaurants, things at our doorstep. A life that's not lived entirely inside our four walls is something that doesn't require a lot of space when we go home. I think that the way, I mean, even if you watch design shows or things that are going on right now in the world, micro living or reducing our things and being out in the world more is a trend that's very much taking off. So, you know, yes, we're taking a risk that if we don't bring in high-end developers, we might have, you know, substandard living there. But if we really look at this as an area that we're developing comprehensively, and this is our downtown core, and we're encouraging, you know, young and vibrant community, along with, you know, a mix of opportunities for us to do things outside of the home, I don't see why this would be an unpleasant life that we're offering to people with a small space.
Thank you very much.
Claudia Pasmino, 13504 Northeast 23rd Place. I actually lived in a studio when I lived in New York City, and it wasn't pleasant. And granted, I lived in New York City. I can go to Central Park. I can go out. So I do agree with Jessica. What she said, please have consideration for the people who are going to be living there, because North Miami doesn't have enough parks for people to take their dogs to play, to have recreation. We don't. So don't assume, oh, we're going to be the next happening city. We're going to be like Wynwood. No, really think about the quality of life of people. And again, I did live in a studio in New York City. One of the reasons I came back to Miami, because I wanted sun, I wanted greenery, I wanted to play with dogs. So have that in consideration.
Sid Weinstein again. The dorms in Miami.
He's a developer. It's another question. It's another item. He didn't.
Guys, we got to use these microphones, please, please, please.
Sid
Wait,
Weinstein from 1325
Mr. Mayor,
Northeast
excuse-
125th.
Mayor-
In
Sorry,
Miami,
excuse me.
It's public comment. If this is public comment, he cannot comment twice. If he's already spoken on the item, he can't speak again on the item, sir.
can't speak again.
When did we? Because it's a quasi judicial.
That's just the way it is.
We've been having that. Thank you very much.
You don't want
yes,
me
sir. Go
talking
ahead.
Is it okay?
2 minutes. yeah.
Okay. In Miami-Dade, they have dorms now because this is a college town right now. North Miami happens to be a college town, especially around the tracks. In Miami-Dade, they have 200 square foot units they're selling now. In Miami-Dade, we don't want to go 200. 400 would be sufficient for a dorm or a rental or anything of that size. The minimum should be, I'd say, around 400. But, okay.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open on the item. Public hearing is now closed. Can I hear a motion on the proposed, on the dice, sorry.
I just want to ask a question, because I'm not comfortable with unlimited 500 square feet. On the PCD and the NRO, we've got 20% of the units can be 500 square feet. I think that that's a little bit limited for this particular district. What if we required that if it's going to be 500 square feet, that it be limited to a studio or one bedroom? What I wouldn't want to see are 500 square foot we don't have that in our code. Everything is 750, so right now we can have a 3-bedroom, 750 square foot unit. Could we make this limited to, you can have the 500 square feet, but it can only be a studio or one bedroom, as opposed to just limited, because they could be making, again, 2, 3-bedroom units. And if we're gonna have 500, it should be limited to like 2 people in that dwelling.
It should be limited
So
to
I'm
a
just-
studio, not 2 people.
Right,
2 people. 2 people. I mean,
A
that's
studio, not 2
no,
people.
You can't regulate.
Oh, yes, you can. That's the law. I believe that is a county law,
Yeah,
that
a
it's 2
studio.
people per bedroom.
A studio. Can you?
Councilman, you can't regulate the number of people.
She
Through the land-
Let the attorney.
Yes.
You can't
okay.
regulate the number of people in a unit through land development regulations. These are
So you
land
can't-
development regulations. You can't say.
So we couldn't have a land.
Not through the land development regulations, no.
So how do you do it in the zoning to say, okay, you can have a 500 square foot one bedroom, and two bedrooms must be 750.
Not
It's
in
a-
your land development regulations.
And where
You're
do they do
developing the
that?
land- I mean, you may pass an ordinance, but not in your land development regulations. We're
Okay.
talking about zoning and land development regulations.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Are you
Mr. Mayor?
done, Vice
Oh,
Mayor?
sorry.
I just wonder if there are any recommendations. I just hate to see, you know, a tower with all 500 square foot units.
But if I might argue that point, that's what's happening downtown right now. That's what the future of development is not,
Use the mics and.
not, you know, that's what the future of development is the smaller micro units, for lack of a better definition.
Yeah, and Councilman Galvin, if I could add to that, when the market study was done in relation to the mobility study, it was focused more on the issue of housing choice. The fact that you need an age-friendly type development that allows for units for students as well as the elderly, and that you don't just have larger sizes that become unaffordable, and then you have folks that are priced out of the market. So the consultants did look at that in consideration, and they felt 500 square feet would allow for that mixed income and that workforce housing experience that you recommend having in your housing stock within the city.
Mr. Mayor, and I have this conversation with you guys fairly regularly when we start talking about development. We can take you on tours, we can get developers in front of you. It's not practical. No developer in Miami is gonna build a building, a single building with all 500 square foot units.
Yeah.
Because the market is not going to, they're gonna demand.
Can we get rid of the sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, just let's
Sign.
get rid of
People
this.
can't see us, we can't see them.
We
We're gonna
talk on the
we're
mic.
gonna have, the market's gonna dictate, they want a mix of studios, one bedrooms, and two bedrooms for the market. I don't care who you talk to, where you go, that's gonna happen naturally. You guys are defining a box right now, and as the attorney put in the record, let's define the box. I understand people's concern with not having a minimum to be too small. And, you know, we can provide for the comparable sizes around South Florida, you know, in the state and in the southeast region of the United States, if you want to see some of those comparables. But if you look at just the local market, having it a minimum at 500 is not unreasonable right now. So, and that's my experience, both from the city before, my experience as a consultant to developers who have built in Miami and looking at the general market. But again, I think we could benefit from some of that comparable education process so you can see some of these buildings. And I'm not saying that to say, I understand North Miami is very different from Brickell. We're not gonna build what they're building there. They're building 80-story buildings, and like former mayor put on the record, yes, there are 323 square foot units for rent and being rented right now for $2,000 a month in downtown Miami, with no store, no grocery store within 3 blocks, no restaurants, no nothing around it. But that's people who are migrating back to the downtown area, and they want to be east of I-95 and closer to work and all those things. So I just want to put that on the record for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Did we close
Yes,
public hearing?
we close public hearing this year.
You have a question? I thought that your recommendation is 500. All we were doing is entertaining the idea of going the minimum of 400. I thought
you're
that's
correct.
the
The
okay.
recommendation on the
So
books
I mean,
is
if
500.
you saying that the market study that you did for this says 500, I mean, I don't know if that, because that's the question. It's either we're doing 500 or the suggested number Kevin threw out there 400, or do we want to do?
No, let's keep it
450?
500
Yeah,
to
that's
start.
all.
Then
Yes.
it's 750. Let's keep it 500.
500. Okay,
yeah.
perfect. So we good.
And the
I
thing
move.
is, we need to understand when someone is investing his money on building something, they want to make money. That's mean they're not just gonna come because take advantage of the 500 square foot, and after that they cannot sell it or they cannot rent it out. That's mean, and they're gonna conduct the study, the survey, and everything before they build, and based on the demand, that's when they're gonna build those units. Councilwoman.
No questions, I'm ready to move
No
it.
question, can I hear motion?
Motion.
On the proposed
Second.
item?
Second.
I guess we ready.
500 square as proposed. Madam Clerk?
I have a motion made by Councilman Desilme to approve tab N. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bienemay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desilme, how do you vote?
Yes.
The item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you very much, and I turn the gavel to Vice Mayor Keys.
Tab O, proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, providing for text amendments to chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations by amending Article 4 zoning districts and the official zoning map to establish the special development and transit-oriented development overlay district, clarifying the bonus density allocation provisions, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and for an effective date.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development. We discussed before the TOD district at 123rd Street. The item before you is for the TOD district, that's Northeast 151st Street. The council may recall back in September of 2018, we reviewed the comprehensive plan text and map amendment. That was then subsequently transmitted to the state to DO for review. Was approved by the state with no revisions. So as such, staff is bringing the land development regulations before you for adoption tonight. I'm going to recap in terms of the development standards that were proposed as a part of this new overlay district. And it's very similar to the district that we discussed before. The boundaries or the limits on the northern end would be Northeast 151st Street. On the western boundary, it would be Northeast 18th Avenue. On the southern boundary, Northeast 141st Street. And then on the eastern boundary, the FEC tracks. This one is dubbed the SDTOD. The minimum lot size would be 10,000 square feet. Mixed use is being proposed to allow for residential, retail, office uses. The density there, as established in the adopted comprehensive plan, is 150 dwelling units per acre. Maximum height at 200 feet. The dwelling unit size, similar to the one that we just had approved, is 500 square feet as well. The lot coverage is 80%. This one has a maximum pool of 2,000 units. So it would be on a first-come, first-served basis. As you've seen with other density bonuses that we have, the projects would be brought before City Council for consideration in a conditional use permit. So staff is recommending adoption of this ordinance at this time to activate the SDTOD overlay district.
Public hearing is now open.
I'm sorry. I'm reading. Okay, public hearing is now open. Thank you, Councilman. You wanna?
It's okay, everybody was looking at you. and
I'm so engrossed in reading the ordinance, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Ethan Wasserman with Greenberg Traurig, 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue, here on behalf of the property owner on 151st, just west of the FEC rail line. That's the Robert Finbarb Companies. It's about 5.5 acre site, so we're just west of FIU, where obviously there's an aggregation of students and demand for housing. We're just west of Costco. This is in an opportunity zone, and this the comp plan, as the planning director mentioned, the comp plan was approved about a year ago, so we are really anxious to come in and build a wonderful project in the city. I don't want to rehash the discussion that was just had on the item before us, that we kind of covered all the relevant terms. I will add that this legislation is very strict on green resiliency, sustainability requirements. My client supports those efforts. Those are going to be very important as we move forward in the city. The height and density has already been discussed, and the minimum unit size we support. So I thank you all, and we urge your approval of this item.
Thank you. Anybody else for public hearing? Seeing no one, any board discussion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab O. The motion was seconded by Councilman Desilme. Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bienemay. Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desilme, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, the item passes with a 4-0 vote.
We'll have to wait and get the final vote from the mayor when he returns. Correct?
Do we move on to the next?
Yes.
Okay. Tab P.
Tab P, proposed ordinance, first reading, ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, providing for text amendments to chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations by amending Article 5, Development Standards, specifically at Section 5-1405 to revise the standards for parking and/or storage of recreational vehicles, boats, trailers, and personal watercraft, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and for an effective date.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development. This is pertaining to a text amendment to Section 5-1405 of the Land Development Regulations. The council may recall that there's a moratorium in place right now for administrative variances where recreational vehicles are concerned, watercrafts, boats, trailers. Staff had held a workshop several months ago where we solicited comments from the public because this was a growing issue surrounding complaints regarding the parking of those vessels in the front yard. Based on the workshop and the conversations that we've had with council and with city manager, we're proffering the following text amendment that would prohibit the parking or storage of these vessels in the front yard and would restrict it only to the side yard and the rear. We would still maintain that 2 feet setback that you have from the vessels and the property line. There's also the requirement that can only be one vessel, so you can't have multiple vessels that are allowed on the property. There's landscaping requirements that you will see in the ordinance as well, that the vessels have to be properly screened up to 36 inches to make sure that there's buffering from the right-of-way and the vessels that are on the property. So staff is bringing this forward to allow for this revision in the code so that there can be additional restrictions to allow for the proper storage of those vessels on the properties.
Thank you. I'll open this to public hearing. Mr. Bichon.
Thank you, Bob Pashon, 13005 Coronado Terrace. This is a good idea, but it needs to be tweaked a little bit. The way it's written, the problem existed with where do people put boats and motor vehicles and 40-foot motorhomes, and people didn't want them in the front yard. Code enforcement couldn't enforce it because one of the options was to seek an administrative variance. We give an administrative variance for 6 things, 5 of which are minor deviations from the setbacks, whether it's a dock or a driveway or a carport or a parking space. And this one's created all the problems. So the administrative variance process works for this, but we need to preclude the exception for putting the vehicle in front of the house. That way, if it's in front of the house, it's a violation, and we move from there. The tweaks that need to be done are, I think you need to get an administrative variance to park this in your garage. And for all I know, you can put bodies in your garage for anybody who cares, but you don't need to put it, if I want to put my boat in my garage, I shouldn't have to seek a variance. And the hedges that need to be grown to shield the visibility for a vehicle parked on the side of the house also prevent access for the vehicle. You can't drive it in or drive it out if they've got hedges in front of it. So that language needs to just be adjusted. But otherwise, this is the right idea. It takes the 6th, the one outlier in the administrative variance process, and it says the vehicle needs to be parked behind or on the side of the house and shielded from view. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive. I don't own a boat. I don't have one on the side of my house. I've never had one. But I know people who have a 18-foot little Boston Whaler, and they got 2 jet skis in front of that trailer. And you can't see it from the street. So you're saying now somebody could not have 2 recreational pieces of pleasure a little fishing boat, John boat, whatever you want to call them, little boats, and jet skis on the side of the house. I have before stored a 8-foot trailer that was 14 foot long on the side of my house. I don't think I should have to get a variance. I also don't think we need a 2-foot setback. Majority of boat trailers out there, and I walked around Keystone and San Souci and a few other areas of the city over the last couple weeks, and a trailer is averaging at about 7.5 to 8 feet. If you back it up, and it has to be 2 feet away from your fence, closest to the building, it's not practical. It really isn't. And who's going to go out there? Is code enforcement going to go behind somebody's fence and measure 2 feet? Oh, your boat, the way you parked it this time is a foot too close to the fence. I think you should just eliminate that altogether. If you can fit your boat and your 10-foot side setback on the side of your house, so be it, because you want to be able to get all the way around it. Why don't we make things simple for people to enjoy their property, enjoy their time? And if their neighbors aren't complaining about it, why should we create problems that don't exist? I do agree that 40-foot campers don't belong in somebody's front yard. I agree. They don't belong being hooked up to the sewer system. Agree 100% with that. But if somebody's paying the cost of property in North Miami and they want to park their boat or their camper or whatever they want to park in their backyard for that, and it's hidden and the neighbors aren't creating a big problem about it, why are we burdening people so much with so much regulation? Then how are we going to enforce it?
Your time is up.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good evening. Welcome back. Judy Brown, 1100 Northwest 120 Terrace. I'm glad that this is coming up for discussion. I know where I live, it's not still water in the backyard, but it's unbelievable the size of boats that we have all over the city. And it is a growing problem. So I'm hoping that whatever decision is made, that we really need a ordinance or code that will be all for all of North Miami, you know, because I don't know what it is. I don't know if they don't want to pay for parking these boats, but they'll bring them in the neighborhood and they will park them everywhere. So we really, really need this. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Albert Mendez, 2141 Hibiscus Circle. The reason we are here is because people were complaining. So the fact that we are here is because of the complaints. I do support this for the ones that did go to the workshop that we were there. You could never get anything perfect when it comes to the way these ordinances are written or everything, but I think we did the best that we can, and moving forward, I think this will help at least alleviate some of the complaints and some of the issues that we're having with the administrative variance problem and with the trailers and with the complaints that we're getting. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? We'll close public forum discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
I need to discuss it first.
Oh, you.
Withdraw my motion.
Thank you. As Mr. Pashon said, this ordinance does need the tweaking, because under A1, really we should not require an administrative variance for someone to put a boat, a trailer, whatever, in their closed garage. So I really would like to see that deleted. If you can put your garage, you can put a boat in your garage, why should you have to go to the city and get permission to do so? So that I
I'll
don't
second
agree
that
with.
amendment.
And number two, I'm passing the gavel back. Thank you. Number two, the way it's written, 2B, it requires a hedge. If right now it says we're visible from an alley, street, or highway, that you have to install a hedge starting at 36 inches. If you install a hedge in front of your vessel, boat, trailer, whatever, you can't get your boat or trailer in. So that's like an impossibility. We discussed that with Mr. Attorney, so.
Does it have to be a hedge? Can it be a fence with some sort of covering so that there's a way to open a gate, close a gate? What was the thinking behind hedge?
So I think it's a matter of the wording, because the idea was for the hedge to be on either the side or the rear for screening. The idea wasn't to prohibit the movement of the vessel in and out of the property. So maybe we should put side yard so it's clear that the screening is intended for the fence line. It's, yeah, because it's existing language.
So
took
that
out the
existing
old
language,
language.
no, that existing language, and I've personally dealt with a few of these. A call for that screening to happen, I think it was there when you parked the old vehicle perpendicular to the house. I mean, excuse me, parallel to the house. So it created a screen from, I guess, basically at the sidewalk.
Correct.
Not
Perpendicular.
preventing you from going in and out of your driveway.
Correct.
So taking it out, it should be fine. It was because of the position, because you could do parallel and.
To be actually,
So
I
on the
guess
fence
the
line.
language actually had originally dealt with corner lots,
Mhm.
and we took out that language of corner lot. So I think if you put the language back that it's a corner lot, then it makes it clear that
Perfect.
the hedge is on the
Yes.
side. I think that's what caused the confusion.
Correct.
This originally only contemplated corner lots. It's
Okay,
not
so we-
so it's not like you have a lot in the middle of the block and you're putting a hedge in
Correct,
front of the house so you
correct.
can't come in and out. It should only be on corner
So
lot.
you have, in the case of a corner lot, where visible from the alley or street, that still means that if you're in a corner lot and you can see it from the front of the house, you still have to put the hedge. So rather
On
than
the
being visible
side,
from
though.
an alley, it should be from the non-used alley or street?
We understand, we'll work on the language,
Can
but.
you work on the
yeah.
language?
So should we take,
Okay.
should we continue this, or?
Do you
Oh,
want to
we-
continue this till we get better language?
No, this is an ordinance, so you can vote on
You
it,
can
and in the
tweak it.
second reading, we'll come
Mhm.
back
I see.
with
Okay, so- okay.
different language.
I'd make a motion to approve with the deletion of the requirement for a variance within an enclosed structure, and to put the language back in
the
the case of a
corner
corner lot, but make sure it's known that if it's visible from the side street as opposed to the front.
Yes.
Talking
Second
about-
that motion. And that's a
You're talking
motion
about
for the
tab P?
amendments?
Yeah,
A
that's good.
motion for,
Tab P, right? Okay.
I have a motion made by Vice Mayor Keys to approve tab P with the stated amendments. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
yes.
Councilman Desilme, how do you vote? Yes. Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes?
Councilwoman Estimate Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
The item passes with a 5-0 vote. Mayor Bieneme, with respect to tab O, how do you vote?
And what was it? What is the initial vote?
4-0.
4-0, okay. Make me 5.
Tab O, item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Mr. Mayor, through
And
you
now-
to the city manager,
Yes.
sort of related to this, are you now, the moratorium on things, that's all gone, lifted and done, or you need something more from us to,
After this we gotta do second reading, right?
after second?
Second reading,
Okay.
yeah.
And now it's time for citizen forum, and you have 2 minutes to talk on citizen forum. Huh? 3. And I see, how are you, sir? Up front and Blanket.
Frank.
Do they have something?
Frank and Blanca.
Yes. No? You don't want to say something?
They have a
Say
musical
good
number.
evening. How are you? And okay.
Musical
They're
number
just-
coming up at the end of tonight's show.
They have what?
A musical number.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Yes.
Claudia Pasmino, 13504 Northeast 23rd Place. I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to save it for the next meeting. What I originally was going to say today, I decided to postpone it. Something cute happened with one of my nieces today, and it then reminded me of the back-to-school event. I know the city had 2 back-to-school events. They attended the recent one at Joe Celestine. I couldn't go with them because I had another commitment, but I called them to say, how's it going? They were not happy. They came back, they're like, it was crazy, it was disorganized, people were rude, they yelled like grandma, and I'm like, no, what happened? So they told me what happened, and they even said that they met another lady who said out of several back-to-school events she had gone to, Miami Gardens and Hialeah, North Miami was the most disorganized, which obviously hurt me because I don't like hearing stuff like that. And then the girls told me what happened. A few staff members were nice, but they told me the ones that were not nice. But that being said, today the 11-year-old...
But understand, we were able to serve about 900 people. It wasn't easy. It was hot. It was 100
No, I
degree.
understand.
That's mean
I understand dealing with the
close
public
to
is hard.
1,000 people. That mean it's a lot.
No, I understand. Dealing with the public, it's hard. You're not going to please everybody, but I
Yes.
do believe in respecting people, being professional. I understand that if you have people grabbing at things, you're going to yell at them, stop it, if you have all these kids. But still, from what I hear,
You know,
they're
we had
better disorganized.
we have over 60 volunteers. That's mean.
No, and I
they
told
may,
them that.
They may say the staff may be volunteer also.
I understand
Sorry,
that, but I'm
sorry
just
for
saying, going forward, tell people, hey, dealing with the public is hard, but just remember, these are kids. Some of them are coming with grandparents. I understand things happen. But one of the reasons I decided to bring it up, because I wasn't going to bring it up, is today one of my nieces had a homework, and I thought it was cute. It asked her, who's the most important person in your community? So they recently came from Colombia a few months ago to live with us to learn English. So the younger one, she's like, I don't understand this question, so tell her, read it to me in English. I tell her in Spanish, and my mom was there. I'm like, this is her homework. They're asking her this. And she's like, looking at us. Mom's like, didn't we have an election? I mean, come on, you should be able to answer this. This easy question. And then she's like, Joseph. And I'm looking at her, what? She's like, Joseph. And I'm like, Joseph what? She goes, that's the important person in the community. And I go, who's Joseph? She's like, Sandra. And I'm like, who? And then she's like, no, Jessica Joseph. And I'm like, no, Vanessa Joseph. So she's only met the city clerk twice, but I just thought it was so cute because they only met each other twice, and she left a great impression. And then my mom was like, okay, but who else? I'm sorry that my mom's like, who else? And then she's like, Biename. Mom's like, who's Biename? And then she's like, Carlos. And she's like, there's no Carlos Biename. You got to know their names. And then she's like, Brownie. But I'm just saying to let you guys know that kids are impressionable, that you guys are making impact on them. Even though it's one meeting or two meetings or something, they are observing. And so that's one of the things that I'm like, okay, she remembered this. Oh, okay, she remembered this. So I just want to let you guys know you're doing a good job. At the same time, let the rest of your staff know that they're representing the city of North Miami to please, be nice.
Since I stopped you, you have another 30 seconds.
So no, my whole thing is, you guys are impressible. The department heads, the police officers, I also wanted to say back to school, my mom dropped them off to take the bus. First day she dropped them off, but the police officers there were nice. My mom knows a few of them. They, even though she was inside the car, they waved at her, like they big motions, and my mom's like, oh my God, how sweet of them, nice of them. So you guys are doing a good job, but it's just, trickle it down. Let, department heads, you all great. Just trickle it down. Let everybody know you're representing North Miami. Our citizens, our youngest kids are paying attention. Because the ones that told on you guys or the event was the girls. They're like, oh, why did you make us go? This happened. They were rude. They were screaming. They pushed us. So I'm just letting you know, kids are paying attention.
Thank you very much. Citizen forum still open.
Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street in Sunkist Grove. It's my hope that we, the citizens of North Miami, realize and embrace every community member. Every community member needs to be counted in the census. And I hope that efforts will be made to count every community member in the census. Further, in that we are operating under a friendly audit of minus $8 million. Plus, I think there needs to be more steps taken to make changes in prior ways of operating, which were ineffective and led us to the situation that we're in today. And I hope, I truly hope, that you board members take steps to ensure that next year we won't be in a similar state. Thank you.